Today, we'll be talking about how the right culture can improve productivity by 52%. And we're lucky to have Arthur Carmazzi, who's the world's #1 organizational cultural thought leader. And according to the global gurus, he's ranked #1 in organizational culture. So this is a brief introduction, and I'll be telling you more about Arthur Carmazzi. So he's yeah, just so a brief introduction about myself. I am conducting this webinar, but actually Arthur is going to tell us about the cultural change and all the aspect because he's been involved in this for about 15 years, and he's done it with so many companies. He has a 100% success rate. So my name is Ahsen Qazi, and I'm a training and consulting company is my company, and I do leadership, team building, and cultural change programs. So basically, I'm a speaker and author of 2 books, and I'm also certified by Author's company, Directive Communication International, which is a accredited program by the American Institute of Business Psychology. So I'm also an official Colored Brain channel partner in Pakistan. So anything you want from Directive Communication, you can get in touch with me, and I can help you out on that. So this is a brief introduction. So with that, I want to show you some pictures of Bali. So this was 3 years ago. I flew all the way to Bali, and this is Arthur. He trained me to become a speaker and to become a certified consultant from Directive Communication. I got my 5 certifications during my 10-day stay at Bali. So these are some pictures with Arthur, and it was an enjoyable session we had 3 years ago. And after that, I launched my company, and I've been doing quite well after that. So this is some past memories of Arthur. And now so we have the person himself, like so Mr. Arthur Carmazzi, the founder of Directive Communication Psychology, best-selling author, ranked #1 organizational cultural thought leader. So he's here with us, and he'll be telling us so a little bit about Arthur's work because he's done so much, but I just wanted to include a few things just to tell you about the magnitude of his work he's done so far. So he's been doing cultural change in all these organizations around the world, and they include Emirates Hotels and Resorts, Corporate Cultural Transformation. This is a big organization, and the case study is also available on the website. And there's another organization, PKNS Malaysia. There's another big organization. So both these were successfully transformed in less than 90 days. So some precious nuggets of wisdom if you go and read the case study. And Arthur has a 100% success rate of cultural transformation. So that's something really big, and I think that's something we should be really proud of, And okay, and with that, I just want to cover the sequence. Okay, so we'll be talking about why improve your organizational culture, because you already have a culture, and why you need to change that culture if you want, and why you need to take that next step and change your organizational culture. Then we'll be talking about lead sucking, low performance versus high performance culture, 5 levels of organizational cultural evolution. So culture evolves, and we'll be talking about the 5 levels, and then 7 reasons why you need to get a cultural audit done. Okay, and then and then we have identifying the gaps in the culture. Okay, then how evolved is the organizational culture, so you can benchmark your own culture, how evolved the culture is in your organization. So this is a sequence. We have a lot to cover, and Arthur will be covering most of it. I'm just going to introduce the subject, so because he's the authority on this cultural change. Now, so why you should improve your organizational culture? Because already you might be having a culture which you've inherited from, if you work in a company. So it might be 10-year-old company or a 20-year-old company or 50-year-old company, depends upon, where you're working, but you already inherited a culture. So why you want to change that culture? So you need to create an ideal working environment to have better performance. So more personal effectiveness, more engagement, more ownership, and more responsibility. So you get all these things, and this contributes towards the ideal working environment. So once you have the ideal working environment, you can have, sorry, the light has just come on. So okay, I think now it's okay. So as you can create an ideal working environment, and that will give you a step ahead in cultural change. Now, we are all leaders we are all developers, people developers. In our companies, we might be OD specialists, we might be HR managers, we might be training and development managers or the HR directors. So we are leaders in our own capacity. And we want to nurture happy, motivated, and competent workforce. And all this could be done if you manage the culture in a good way. So changing Australian culture is much like baking a cake. You can have all the ingredients, but nothing happens till you put them in the oven. So that is something quote by Arthur Carmazzi. So, okay, now need sucking. Now, this is a term which I learned once I was in Bali. Need sucking is something which you do involuntarily and which robs the other person. They want to contribute. So it's an involuntary action which destroys motivation. So somebody really comes in to do something to help you, and you do something nasty, and then the person said, "Oh no, I don't want to contribute anymore. I don't want to be a part of this group." So need sacking causes poor performance and is responsible for a lot of the failures and a lot of the setbacks we face in organizations. So that's something to avoid, and Arthur will be telling us more about need sacking a little later. Now we have the low performance culture versus the high performance culture. So this is an excellent slide to highlight the worst culture is on the left side, on the red side, and on the right we have the best culture, high performance culture. So in a poor culture, which is unsupportive, which doesn't support you, which lets you down, which pulls you down, if you employ 100 people, they'll give you the output of only 68 people. So that's a big waste of resources. That's a big waste of time, big waste of energy, big waste of everything you're doing. But if you have somebody like Arthur Carmazzi, if he changes your culture and if he makes it better, if you have a supportive culture, if you employ 100 people, they would do the work of 151 people. So that's a 52% jump in productivity. So that is the topic for today, and that's what we're aiming to do in this webinar. Now, just a small, the same thing you highlighted in this slide as well. So we have the poor culture, we have the average culture, and we have the good culture. In the poor culture, we're losing 32% of the productivity. And in the good culture, on the right side, we have more effectiveness, and it's like 51%, 52% jump, to higher productivity. So now I'll be talking about the 5-level organizational cultural evolution, and then I'll be handing over to Arthur. So he'll be just explaining them in more detail. So if you look at this slide, we have the blame culture. Okay, the blame culture. If I can just bring out my laser pointer here. Yeah, so we have the blame culture. So the blame culture is the worst culture. Everybody is blaming everybody else. So this department blames this department, and this person blames the CEO, and the CEO blames that person, and that director blames everybody. So it's a chaos and nothing gets done. So that's the lowest form of culture you would have. Then we have the next step is a multidirectional culture. So in this, everybody is trying to do something, but they don't have a unified direction. So somebody is moving in this direction and somebody in that direction. So it's a multidirectional culture. And then we have the live and let live culture. So it's like, okay, let them do what they want. Let us do what we want. Okay, so we can live in peace. Let's not conflict. Let's not have conflict. Let's not fight. But let's just get along. Try to get along with each other. And then we have the brand congruent culture. So in this, we have a greater purpose, right? We share a common language, and people really understand each other. So this is a higher form of culture where you can have some brand congruency, and you can have some synchronization and some concentration and some focus. And then we have the leadership and rich culture. So this is the highest form of culture you could achieve. And in this, that's what we're aiming to do. In that you can get the extra productivity and you can get the extra, success. So with this, Arthur, please give us your perspective on the blame culture. Now over to you. So your show now, please.
Well, okay. Thank you, Ahsen. First of all, I guess one of the key things you should ask yourself is, do you want innovation in your organization? I mean, ultimately, these days, if you don't have innovation, if you don't have people that are proactive, well, basically, you're wasting human resources. So if you're on here, I'm not sure how this is working, but if you've got a chat, I want to ask you, do you feel that innovation will give you a competitive edge? Just type yes into the chat if you think that that's a true statement. Okay. All right. So we're getting some chats. Can you see that? Can we see the chat there?
Yeah. So
right,
we got okay. Yeah, we got a chat, and so we have a yes.
Got a few people. All right. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So here's the thing. Right. You know, when Ahsen was explaining the study that we did about the culture level and everything else, and the mean being 100 people do the work of 100 people. Well, the whole point of that is that we want to be able to really bring out the best of our people. I mean, if you're going to be paying a certain salary to an employee, you don't want to waste your money, right? I mean, in the beginning, when you pay them, you still have to go through the learning curve. So they're not going to really be completely giving you the 100% possible because they're still learning, but they're extremely passionate and very excited. So you're getting a lot of ideas, innovation in the process because they're still fresh. They can see things without being kind of in it, right? So they can see things with fresh eyes. Now, the problem is because they're new, sometimes people don't really pay attention to them, which ultimately lets them kind of sink into the culture where essentially a lot of that innovation, the excitement and everything else kind of die down, which means then they stop being as proactive because ultimately they didn't really get a good response when they were trying to really be proactive and come up with ideas and various ways to kind of improve the company. Okay, so therefore the enthusiasm ultimately went down and they just kind of get sucked into the culture because of the environment, which generally means that now what you're paying for, you're not really getting because you're buying not just the skill of the person. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a situation where you have the skill, okay, but for some reason, the environment, the people around you, I mean, it just made it so difficult to really be the best that you could be, to really use your skill and use your innovation and use your creativity and share your ideas. Have you ever been in that kind of a situation, right? Okay, where it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to be proactive because there was too much risk. You didn't have a safe environment. And essentially, that's what the blame culture is. It is an environment that is not safe, which means that you're not getting the innovation. You're not getting people being proactive. You're getting people to tell you what, tell me what to do and we'll do it because they don't want to take a risk. Now, the thing is that often because of this, then people are getting frustrated. Oh my gosh, why aren't these people being proactive and yada, 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 when they don't realize that many times it is the culture and possibly even the leader who's being frustrated that has created this environment or supported the environment of not being safe. Okay. And so therefore, we, without even realizing it, are often creating or perpetuating cultures that are not supporting our success and the people and the success of the people around us. Right. So, yeah. Okay. So that's the blame culture. And and in the blame culture, I mean, it's one of those things where you're not really excited about work, right? You're just kind of going to work. Why? Because you need a paycheck, and that's it. Okay. You may have great ideas. You may have some awesome solutions, but it may just not be worth it for you to express yourself or do the extra work because, you just feel that it's just not safe enough to do that. And maybe even if you do something extra, maybe people don't appreciate it, don't care. And so it's like, well, what's the point? People don't even know what I'm doing, or you give somebody an idea and then, maybe they take credit for it and you just kind of get left behind. And so what ends up happening is that the people, your people, and possibly even you feel that you are less valuable in this in this organization. And that, of course, creates and perpetuates, it creates an environment where it affects other people as well, because, you know, when we're in an environment of people that are, well, not really taking action, then we start to kind of connect with these other people, and we get sucked into that whole environment, especially if the environment isn't safe. Okay, so even if you have the skills, you have the ability, you become an underachiever. Okay, so the next one, Ahsen.
I think
next one is the
you could run
multi. The next one is the multi-directional culture. All right, so the multi-directional culture ultimately is where you get silos. Okay, the finance department isn't talking to the HR, and they're not talking to the R&D. And like we've done a lot of work with pharma companies, for example, which, you know, that the amount of wastage that comes from multi-directional cultures is phenomenal. Okay, because of the time wasting, the R&D misalignment, all of these things that that happen simply because there are poor communication. There are, you know, people in one department will not really go and connect with people from another department. There's competition, and so, you know, there's also limited trust between one department to another. Oh, those guys in finance, they don't like us because we're doing this. Or, oh my gosh, you know, it's the HR department trying to cause more problems. And so you got all these different people that are just judging the other departments, or the department heads, or even the people within the other departments, simply because they are in that department. Wow. Okay, and so that creates some issues. All right, and so, you know, and hang on just a second, I just got to do something really quick. Okay, here we are. All right, we're back. Okay, so multi-directional culture, at least is better than a blame culture, because you have a little bit more trust within the departments. But when it goes to actually working together as an organization, you got some issues there, and that affects overall productivity and ability of the organization. The next one's the live and let live culture. So the live and let live culture is basically about complacency. You know, there's a lot of companies that are making lots of money, and it's like, well, gosh, you know, we're already making lots of money. Why do we, you know, need to do new things? Why do we need to innovate? Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to do that? You know, and so people become very complacent in their job, very complacent in the organization. They may appreciate the organization, but ultimately it's like, you know, if it's not broken, why should you fix it? And that ultimately, especially in today's world, can create some very bad decisions, like, for example, Kodak or Nokia, right? I mean, hey, we have 68% of the world's mobile phone market. Why should we change? Oh, yeah. Everything's fine, right? With Kodak. World leader in film and photography and everything else. We're making money from developing and film and all kinds of stuff. We're in everywhere. And it's like, why do we need to change? So that level of complacency ultimately is going to create further problems, because people don't innovate, because they don't feel that they need to. They just kind of continue on doing their own thing. Okay. And then the next one's the brand congruent culture. Now, brand congruent culture, this is where it's not only people being proud of the organization and the brand that they're in, but it's also where people feel that they feel connected to this, that they're constantly trying to make it better. right? And so it's like, wow, it's like you feel good about the brand, whether it's the brand of a product or whether it's the brand of the organization or whatever, right? So it's like, depending on how you have built your organization's brand, that's what people may relate to and the values related to that brand. And so therefore, if you're an organization focused brand, well then, or innovation focused brand, then people are going to feel it is their responsibility to be innovative. If it's something like Body Shop, for example, where, it's we care about, the people and humanity, and we're, doing different kinds of charity things, as part of our branding and all of this part of our sales all goes to, helping rural communities, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, then you feel good about that, and you're constantly coming up with new ways to expand on that, and also build that into your job, into the way that you communicate, and of course, the way that you communicate with each other, because everybody's in the same brand, right? And so therefore, that creates more innovation. It creates more communication because you have a common foundation. And so, of course, that also means that you generally have more innovation because people are collaborating within that framework. Okay. And then the final one is the leadership enriched culture. Now, this one's much more difficult because see, it turns out that a lot of people, when they become CEOs, have big egos. Okay, yeah, I know that that's hard to believe, but it's true. Yes, and what happens with that is that because they have big egos, well, sometimes it's very difficult for them to think that they're wrong. Okay, and it's sometimes, especially depending on some cultures, you even are not, if you're the CEO, you can't not know the answer. If you don't know the answer, you look bad. And like, so there's this extra pressure to just kind of play this role. Okay. And so this is where a lot of organizations most organizations never make it to the leadership enriched culture, because the leadership enriched culture ultimately is about letting people who have the most passion and potential skill to lead a project. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean if you're doing a project related to programming, you have to be a programmer, but it means that maybe you're very passionate about it. You have a general understanding of programming, and you've got this idea, and who you need to work with in order to do it. But it's your idea, and you've got this vision, and taking it on and leading a team of people, even if you are the janitor. Okay, and all these other people may be above you, is okay in a leadership enriched culture. And in some cases, you may need to tell the CEO what to do or what you need from them so that they can support you to do your project. So, okay, imagine the janitor, okay, leading a team of developers and telling the CEO what to do. Doesn't sound like it's plausible unless you're in that kind of an organization, in which case it is, okay? And that's the thing, right? Okay, because right now there's this whole hierarchy feeling that we have, and we're connected to this old way of doing things. The person on top knows more. Well, yeah, maybe they have more experience, but ultimately they don't know what the frontline people know. They don't, okay? Unless they have sat on the front line as the CEO, they don't know what the front line's about, okay? And if they are, and the cleaning people are completely, the tea lady, for example, okay? Sometimes not necessarily, I don't want to say misunderstood. I want to say You don't really know the potential there. See the tea lady, she's always listening to what's going on, what other people are saying and everything else. And she knows all the gossip because everybody kind of complains to the tea lady, and they know all of this stuff that's going on, and you don't realize the power that goes into that, right? So by having people that are passionate, excited, and helping them to essentially be leaders for what they're excited about, regardless of their position, and having each other support each other regardless of their position. Okay, that's where the leadership enriched culture comes in. Okay, why is it more effective? Well, imagine, okay, how much more effort do you put into something that you're completely excited about? Okay, and if you see, if you're working together with somebody else that's also excited about this, and you've got your own team of people who are like, wow, this is amazing. Do you think that maybe these people might do something faster, better, and more cost effectively than you would in a normal hierarchical structure? Just tell me yes if you think that would actually work.
Yes, yes.
Type into the
Type
chat.
in the chat. Okay. Please type
Okay.
in the chat if you agree.
Okay, nobody's agreeing. Oh, yes, we got one. All right. All right. Okay. So anyway, yes, we've got a few. Excellent, Mohammed. Awesome. All right. So so now let's what else do we want to talk about, Ahsen?
So Arthur, next we have let me just sorry. So there's another yes, quite well explained. Okay. Okay.